He came in as a diplomat. He left in handcuffs. What the CIA agent was planning would have shaken the entire West African region if President Ibrahim Traoré hadn't acted just in time. The sun rose slowly over Ouagadougou, casting long shadows across the quiet city streets. It was a normal morning. Vendors arranging fruit, motorbikes humming past, soldiers chatting outside checkpoints. But somewhere near the heart of the capital, inside a marble-floored government building, a man stepped through the security gates. He wore a tailored navy blue suit, dark glasses, and the confident smile of someone who believed no one was watching. Guard, checking ID. American delegation? The man, calmly. Yes, here for an economic meeting. Shouldn't take long. The guard barely looked twice. Why would he? This man had clearance, connections, and cover. But within 48 hours, everything would change. Hidden inside his briefcase was a pen that wasn't just a pen. A flash drive with encrypted files. A phone with no number, no trace. What he carried could ignite a regional war and unravel everything Ibrahim Traoré had fought to build. This is not just a spy story. It's not just politics. It's about Africa, reclaiming her voice, her power, her destiny. And it starts with one man's mistake. He wasn't on any watch list, no red flags. Just another well-dressed foreigner claiming to help Africa. But the closer you looked, the more the mask slipped. His name on paper was Thomas Reynolds, a senior advisor with an international NGO focused on democracy development. He held a diplomatic pass, moved effortlessly between US, French, and ECOWAS embassies, and dined often with high-ranking officials. But that wasn't his real name. Burkina Faso intelligence officer, in briefing. Sir, facial recognition cross-checked him with CIA field officers from operations in Sudan and Libya. He has at least 3 aliases. Commander, how did he even get clearance? Officer, through an American NGO, quiet funding, very quiet. Weeks before his arrest, Traoré's internal security unit flagged his movements. Reynolds had been seen meeting Western contractors in private restaurants, exchanging documents with a known ECOWAS intelligence officer in a parking garage, and visiting military-adjacent zones without formal permission. He blended in too well, and that, ironically, is what gave him away. President Traoré ordered full surveillance, not to arrest him yet, but to watch, learn, track every step. And what they found next changed everything. The arrest wasn't loud, no handcuffs in the street, no sirens, just a quiet knock, and the end of a game that had gone on too long. It happened in the lobby of a 4-star hotel in central Ouagadougou. The man now known as Reynolds was having coffee with a group of French tourists, laughing, relaxed, unaware that 6 plainclothes officers had the place surrounded. Officer, quietly, Monsieur Reynolds, please come with us. Quietly, Reynolds, smirking. This some kind of mistake? Officer, firmly, not anymore. In his hotel room, they found a pen camera, an encrypted flash drive, and a burner phone tucked inside a shaving kit. But the real shock came when they decrypted the drive. Inside were satellite maps of military installations in Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali. Detailed coordinates, timelines. There were voice recordings, Reynolds speaking in hushed tones with contacts believed to be ECOWAS officials, and a chilling PDF titled, Reintegrating the Sahel, Post-Coup Scenarios. Traoré, after the briefing, fist clenched. They want to turn us into a chessboard, again. He called an emergency meeting of top military and intelligence leaders. The press was told nothing, no leaks, no statements. Traoré, we stay silent until we know who else is involved. Then, we speak with action. The West had played this game before, but this time, Africa had a new player. The Ouagadougou documents on the flash drive painted a clear, disturbing picture. This wasn't a rogue agent freelancing for influence. This was a calculated, multi-stage operation aimed at slowly undermining Burkina Faso's sovereignty from within. The heart of the plan was a policy proposal disguised as an academic paper, reintegrating the Sahel, post-coup scenarios. It outlined how international partners could stabilize the region, but only by reinstalling Western-friendly regimes, dismantling military governments, and gaining access to natural resources contracts that had recently been nationalized. The files were dated and structured. Phase 1. Monitor local military morale and identify internal dissent. Phase 2. Isolate leaders with international sanctions and fund media narratives of instability. Phase 3. Trigger a diplomatic crisis that could justify peacekeeping intervention. And they were almost there. Voice recordings from the burner phone revealed conversations with individuals from outside Burkina Faso, officials discussing potential blockades, asset freezes, and even planting reports of human rights abuses to weaken Traoré's public support. Traoré sat silently after listening. Then, without looking up, he said, "They weren't planning an invasion. They were building a noose." That night, the list of embassy officials permitted full access to government buildings was slashed by half. Checkpoints were reinforced. Intelligence teams were dispatched to Mali and Niger with one instruction: find out who else is on this list, and if they're here to help or to hunt. The man who called himself Thomas Reynolds sat alone in a concrete-walled room beneath the Ministry of State Security. No windows, just one flickering light overhead, a table, 2 chairs, and silence. He looked different now. The confidence was gone. His hands, once steady, now trembled slightly. Not from fear, but from calculation. He knew the real game wasn't played in this room. It was played with pressure, protocol, and silence. Then the door opened. 3 men walked in. The first was a high-ranking intelligence officer. The second was a translator, unnecessary but symbolic. And the third was Colonel Zongo, Traoré's most trusted military strategist. Zongo sat down across from him, placing a thin file on the table. "Mr. Reynolds," he said flatly, "you've been caught with classified maps, encrypted communications, and recordings linking you to regional destabilization efforts. Let's skip the dance. Who are you really working for?" Reynolds leaned back, smiling faintly. "You're wasting your time, Colonel. I'm a development advisor. I meet people. I collect opinions." Zongo opened the file. Photographs spilled out. Images of Reynolds shaking hands with known private contractors, sitting in cafes with military analysts, a close-up of the pen camera. "You were never sent to help. You were sent to divide, and you failed." Silence. Then Reynolds spoke, not with fear, but with confidence. "You don't understand how this works. Arrest me, detain me, parade me on television. It won't matter. I'm not the only one. And if you push too far, your country will feel it. Sanctions, isolation, maybe worse." Zongo stared at him, unblinking. "We've survived colonization, coups and betrayal. Do you really think your threats scare us now?" Reynolds, quietly. "You should be scared of what's coming." That was the turning point. Zongo stood, walked to the door and called in 2 guards. "He talks when he wants to eat, until then he can sit in the dark." Outside, Traoré was already preparing a report, not for the press, not for foreign powers, but for his people. This wouldn't just be an arrest. It would be a message. "You may come in with suits," and smiles. "But if you plan to control Africa through shadows, we will bring you into the light." The news broke the next day. The world's media outlets were quick to seize on the arrest of the American diplomat, but the Burkinabe government remained silent. No official statement, no press conferences, only whispers and hushed conversations among international diplomats in Ouagadougou. Behind closed doors, President Ibrahim Traoré had summoned his closest allies, military leaders, and intelligence heads to discuss the fallout. The room was tense, every leader fully aware that Reynolds wasn't an isolated agent. He was a part of something larger, something far more dangerous. Traoré, voice steady, resolute, This isn't just about one man. It's about a plan to destabilize the region, and it's been running long before we took office. We need to move faster. The strategy that had worked for decades, the quiet undercurrent of foreign interference, was now out in the open. Burkina Faso had always been a target for outside powers, resources, strategic positioning, and the growing influence of new leadership that threatened the status quo. Military leader, if this plan is as deep as we suspect, how long before they strike back? Traoré's gaze hardened. He had known this day would come. The arrest of a foreign agent was just the beginning. The real test would be in the days to come. The political pressure, the international condemnation, the looming threat of economic retaliation. Traoré, grimly. If they come at us with sanctions, we'll counter with partnerships. If they threaten war, we'll stand our ground. The world outside would soon know what the Sahel region had learned. No longer would Africa bow to the pressure of foreign powers. Burkina Faso had drawn a line in the sand, and anyone who crossed it would be met with force. For now, the rest of the world watched, uncertain of what to make of a nation that dared challenge the hidden powers that had long shaped its fate. The days following the arrest were a storm of political maneuvering. The international community, caught off guard by the audacity of Burkina Faso's actions, was split. Western powers, particularly France and the United States, issued statements of concern. They condemned the arrest and demanded Reynolds' immediate release, citing diplomatic immunity and the importance of maintaining open communication channels. But President Ibrahim Traoré didn't flinch. Instead, he stood firm, issuing a statement that echoed through the corridors of power. Traoré, Burkina Faso will not be a pawn in the game of others. If we are to move forward as a nation, we will do so on our own terms. Behind the scenes, diplomatic pressure mounted. Economic sanctions were threatened, aid packages suspended, and multinational companies re-evaluated their investments in Burkina Faso's resource-rich mining sector. But the Burkinabe people rallied behind their president, proud of the stance he had taken. The media blackout that Traoré had imposed kept the narrative controlled. The truth about the documents and the infiltration plan spread quickly among local populations, and soon the whole country was aware of the larger scheme at play. The news of the CIA-backed operation leaked, sparking outrage not only in Burkina Faso but across the Sahel region. For the first time in years, the continent began to unite in a way that hadn't been seen since the post-colonial struggles. Local leaders, military strategists, and even civilians spoke out against foreign meddling, showing a renewed sense of sovereignty. But as for Reynolds, his trial was swift. He was convicted of espionage and subversion. His fate was sealed, but his capture had unwittingly sparked a firestorm of change, one that couldn't be extinguished with diplomatic pressure or economic threats. The aftermath was clear. Burkina Faso had sent a message to the world. Africa had a new voice, one unwilling to bend to the whims of outsiders, and that voice was growing louder every day.